You'll be amazed at how much you learn about your own business just trying to tee up somebody coming into your business to be successful.
What's going on, guys? On today's episode of the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast Scale Show, we are doing something a little bit different than our traditional Monday interviews. And on this episode, we are actually going to be listening in to a group call that we did with our Scale community. And don't worry, this will be equally valuable, if not more valuable, than a lot of the different interviews that we do, because in this episode, we are going to be listening into a recording where we are talking with Scale members about what it takes to grow from 2-ish deals a month to 5 or 6 deals a month. And we just thought it was a really, really valuable conversation that would also bring a ton of value to just the general listener population. And so hopefully you get a lot out of this. These are kind of like a regular kind of conversation that we have within the group. We do these 3 times a week. And this is the kind of conversation you would like to be a part of within our Scale community. You can go to collectingkeys.com/scale. Scroll all the way down to the bottom, put in an application, and we can see if it makes sense for you. Otherwise, we hope you just get a ton of valuable information from this conversation. And obviously, share this with your friends who are fellow real estate investors looking to grow. Thanks, everybody, and enjoy.
So if you guys missed this, about an hour ago, I posted in the live calls chat. I wanted to have a good topic to go over. And Eric Klun and Mason both had a great question around they're getting to a phase where they are consistently doing 2 deals a month or 3 to 5 deals a month and trying to figure out how exactly to scale beyond that. And even if you guys aren't there yet, still a good lesson so you can start to think ahead and plan ahead for when you reach this point, which you all inevitably will. And funnily enough, Dan and Dylan and we recorded a podcast today that we talked about this a little bit. Because I do think that there is this limit that you kind of reach as a single person operation that is inevitable. And it seems to be kind of the same range everywhere. And that range seems to be like like the 4 to 6 deal range. Like when you are really dialed in with your processes and you're fully committed to your business, you don't have any other distractions. That seems to be kind of like the ceiling of what like a single operator can reach. And then from there, you have to be looking to, expand into a team. And, the reason I think that happens is because if you look at the entire pipeline of the business, right, if you're having one person that is doing all the data, ordering all the marketing, doing all the other back end stuff like the accounting and the bookkeeping and everything else, then that same person is also doing their long-term lead follow-up. They're doing their high quality leads. They're walking the property. They're putting together the offers. They are networking to build their buyers list. They're doing the disposition when they get a contract. They're managing the transactions. They're getting the hard money loan for properties they're going to buy. They're managing a flip or two, right? All of a sudden, it's an incredible amount of stuff for a single person to be doing. And I think that, ultimately you just run out of time. Right? There's those 3 main resources that you have in business, which are money, time, and energy. And when you get to that phase of what seems to be kind of 4 to 6 deals at like the high end for a single person, you're starting to probably make some money, but you're running out of that time, that energy, right? And so Eric, and yours, you said you're currently consistently doing 2 deals per month, and your next goal is to get up to 5. What is your current flow look like in your day and your week?
It's very similar to what you just explained about doing that, wearing every hat. That's essentially kind of what I do. I have like kind of a flow of a month from when I get together the direct mail marketing, then the phone starts ringing. I start, I start in on the hot leads. I try to carry them to the finish line. And then that's where things fall off for me a little bit is the, nurturing the old leads. Past couple of weeks, I've had a VA doing that for me. I've been training her on and stuff like that, which is good because that's gotten me back into, talking with leads more, just kind of managing the CRM better.
Sure.
And things like that. And essentially, it's all the back end stuff. And then there's the accounting, there's the transaction coordination side, which is actually, that's probably like what I spend the most of my time doing. It's also what I enjoy doing the most is working with the buyers and title and everything and getting that deal from contract to closing. And like I said, it's like the life cycle is essentially about a month, and then next thing you know, here I am, I'm right at that point right now. Leads are slowing down. I'm about to order more mail, and then the life cycle starts
Okay.
again.
Cool. How much mail are you doing per month right now?
About 5,000. You talking about money or pieces?
It's the same thing, $5,000, or is that 5,000 pieces?
So 5,000 pieces. I think it's like 3,500 bucks. Yeah.
Cool. So what I would say for you, your current constraints, especially because I know you a little bit from KeysCon, you're organized. I've heard you on the phone. We know you can close, right? Now you have your lead manager, which will help you a lot. Your biggest thing, honestly, will just be to increase that spend and get more opportunities, right? Increasing, like I would bet that where you are right now, especially where you have that lead manager, you can probably push that budget up to $10,000 a month and still be able to operate just as you. You're going to be working your ass off, right? But I think that you could do that pretty comfortably. And that is typically one of like the first barriers that people start to reach is either they aren't monetizing their leads that are old, which you're starting to do that, and you'll probably start to see the fruits of that in the next 30, 60 days. Or they are not simply not spending enough on their systems and their marketing, right? Like they're just not giving themselves enough shots at goal. And so that's probably the next thing for you. If you're in a different boat, so like let's say if you had answered that you were spending $8,000 a month on marketing right now, but it was still just you and there was nobody else on your team, that's when I would say it probably makes the most sense to be bringing on some help to work your pipeline, whether that's a lead manager if you're good at closing and you like doing that part, or it's an acquisition manager if you want to be just on the back burner and you want to be kind of behind the scenes. But that's ultimately, what you need to do is you need to bring in additional leverage through humans, right? And people to build out your team.
What's your cost per deal right now then? Is it like
Low.
less 3,000, 2,000?
Well, it's increased past 2 months. I've jumped on with Simply Leads, so that's
Yep.
increased my cost per
Interesting.
deal. I did
Yep.
just sign my first contract last week from an SMS one, which will be a
Awesome.
15K closing fee.
That's awesome.
That's closing here the middle of next month.
Great.
Nice.
So that has increased the spend. I've been purchasing more systems and now a VA. So that's a good question. So
Yeah.
as of right now, it has increased, but I have definitely seen that the deals are starting to go up for sure.
Sure. Yeah, I was mentioning, go ahead, Mike.
I would say between those though, if you're at what 5,000 pieces in mail, 300, and then Simply Leads is $2,000, that means your cost per deal is probably what, $2,700.
Yeah, about that. Maybe over 300, maybe over 3,000. Are we doing like operating costs as well, like systems?
Nah,
and
we
stuff?
No, just marketing, direct marketing
Then
costs.
probably right around 3,000 then.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean that's solid, right? And that tells me that you're getting what you need to out of your leads. It's not like you might be missing some opportunities, but you're not missing a ton. So you don't need to get better at the systematization and the follow-up, and having that VA is going to help you with that piece as you scale up. And then as you increase your marketing spend, splitting it across 4 weeks to even out your lead flow. So you're not overwhelming your virtual assistant, not overwhelming yourself. Because I think your biggest constraint will become running that many appointments.
Yeah.
Getting out and across town and driving to all your appointments and doing that. That'll be your next constraint, which is great. I think you're good at that. And if you want to keep doing that, then you need to look at, do I hire another VA? Do I outsource the bookkeeping and all the accounting and stuff you're doing? You could potentially hire, a $5 an hour VA type person that does all the back end, just pick up your crap stuff, right? And so for $800 a month, you're now going to get another X amount of hours of your time to run those appointments, which might be another deal, which takes you from 2 deals to 3 to 4 to 5 when you get that spend going up and up and up.
Yeah. Got it. Understood. And that is the part that I enjoy though, is being like, because that's where I close. Like I don't close on the phone like Cody does. Like I close in people's driveways. You know what I mean? Like looking at the property, I bring contractors out kind of 75% of the time. They're coming with me and they got their tape measures out and everybody, they get a real professional feel from that. So that's where I close and get deals done anyway. And then if you guys could just unpack quickly, when you say increased marketing spend, so does that mean the same list and then just hit more people? Because I know I get in there and I whittle it down, like pulling all the RTSs out, which they're on my cold calling list anyway. And then not PO boxes, not LLCs. Like, am I increasing my marketing spend by hitting those, or am I branching out like more zip codes?
It's kind of your choice. You're in Madison, right?
Yes, but that's where I live. I invest in the county south of me. It's Rock County, so it's very close.
Cool. And what's the population size there?
275,000.
Okay, so you got room. So I'd really say it's your choice, right? You You could even split test it a little bit, right? Or do like a little A/B test and send a campaign out that is a less filtered list of what you're already targeting. See how it performs. If it doesn't perform decent, you could also like if you got to give it a couple months, you could try changing it and instead being more niche down and expanding your area too. Like I don't know how much of like that 270,000 person area you're hitting. Are you like kind of concentrated or are you all over?
It's the whole county that I hit.
Okay, cool. So what I would probably do then to start is like scrape down the list a little bit less and just hit the same people that you've been hitting. Because you already know that it's working, right? And so there's no point like trying to reinvent and do something new if you already have some efficiency there. And then when it comes to getting your 5 deals a month, I mean, you can mathematically back into that, right? So if your average cost per deal right now is $2,700, you just need to do that times 5, and you spend $13,000, 500 to get 5 deals mathematically, right? And then as you approach that, like Dan said, you'll start to reach more constraints, walking the properties and those sort of things. And it's your job as the entrepreneur to recognize those and figure out what the new addition needs to be to fix that, whether it's a new system, whether it's a team member, whether it's like a process that you introduce, whatever that looks like.
Exactly.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, very thorough from my end. Yeah,
Cool.
thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting to where Eric is right now, you guys, I would say is the hardest part of this business. 100%. Like the part where you like have consistency is the part that feels like it's freaking impossible until you somehow do it, right? And then all of a sudden, the path to increasing your success is very, very linear. Like it's literally just increasing marketing spend, starting to know where you're falling off, and then being comfortable enough to introduce people and processes at the different points that you're starting to, recognize that the wheels are falling off a little bit, and being able to do that all will not make sure that you don't buy a deal that you're going to lose your ass. Right. And you're going to put yourself under, which is also something that we've seen happen is people sort of get a little bit too complacent. They're trying to scale. They're focused on doing so many deals and they're going, I need to hit my 5 deals a month. This one kind of sucks, but I'm going to buy it. So I keep my metrics up. Then they buy it and it turns out they're going to lose 60 grand on this thing because they didn't give it respect. Okay. And that does happen to people too. But getting to where Eric's is always hard because like you don't quite have like the consistency to be able to make mathematical decisions yet. And so when it comes to somebody like Mason, he's not here to, I was gonna say defend himself. I'm not gonna say anything bad. But he's a different personality than Eric is, right? And so I would say a big thing that Mason probably is dealing with, and this is more, do you remember your disc assessment, Eric? What you were?
D.
You're a high D? Yeah. So, which is funny. Why are you like a D? You must have a C as well.
No, little I, D with a lowercase I.
Yeah, like D and nothing else. I remember that.
How are you so organized? I feel like you're pretty like with it.
I'm not.
You're not really. You're just a great pretender, dude.
Yeah, it's not pretending. I think I'm organized.
Yeah.
I'm not organized on back end stuff. Like I kind of hit the ground. Like the phone starts ringing, I get on appointments, and then I push that as hard as I can, and then all the stuff that falls by the wayside kind of stays by the wayside.
Yeah.
So I don't ever go back and pick up the pieces.
Yeah, that's funny. I had no idea. Because I was gonna say, because I feel like you and Mason would be probably slightly different on the disc assessment. Although I feel like Mason's probably more calculated. I just don't think he's organized because he spends a lot of time trying to figure out KPIs and optimize different things, and he's very I would say more reserved with his decision making.
So I think it also changes too when people are in learning mode, and I think Mason's still in a little bit learning mode on a lot of those things, which kind of I think does skew your disc a little bit.
Yeah, that's true.
How you act and react.
Yeah, because where I was gonna go with that is if you're on like that more calculated end, realistically to grow, you're going to need to hire probably a little bit sooner because your biggest issue is going to be revenue and consistent deal flow. And like, I mean deal flow, not lead flow, because everyone can pay for more lead flow. Right. And so Eric, you're good at the closing. So, for you, it's going to be just increasing spend and increasing your input, right, to get more output. But if you guys are people that you kind of struggle with closing, you struggle with like actually getting contracts signed, and you really are trying to figure out how to grow, but you have some money to spend on systems and everything else, bringing in a salesperson is going to be the big piece that changes for you to get you to that 3 to 5 deals a month type. I mean, with Mason as a good example too, because he's put himself out there a lot on some of the sales calls. I don't know how many calls you guys have heard us review of Mason's over the past few months. He's not bad on the phone, but he's not a killer either, right? Like there's been so many calls that we've listened to him, and we joke that we're gonna listen to the person's like life story, which is fine. He's probably good at building rapport, but that's also how he's like gets friend zone and doesn't like get people across the finish line, because there's a different kind of relationship building that happens when someone's like going to be comfortable talking to you and like giving you the entire situation that they're dealing with, but doesn't necessarily mean they want to do business with you. And the really good salespeople, they can do that, but also what they call cut to the quick and turn it into a transactional conversation. This is where Cody's really good, right? And you guys, as you guys continue to learn more from him, you'll start to see this come out, because he's really good at taking these natural conversations and turning them into a transactional conversation without it feeling like anything is happening. It's funny, I was on a meeting with him yesterday, 2 days ago, and he goes, "Oh, I'm on Zoom." He goes, "Here, really quick, seller call me, I got a call." And he's left the Zoom on, microphone's on, he's like talking to the seller, and that's why I was sitting and listening to it. And I was like, dude, we should like just do like everyone can just come and like join an open Zoom link that you have and just listen to you like make sales calls for like 2 hours. Cause it was fascinating, like the way that the conversation went and the way that he was like so casually being like, "Oh, well, yeah, I mean, I guess it makes sense you'd want that, but I mean, I gotta make some money too, man. Like, I can't be offering you that. It just doesn't make any sense." And the guy's like, "Yeah, I know. I know." He's like, "But I just really want to be able to pay off my car," like whatever he said. And there's the tone and the way that he does it. I'm like, I don't talk to anybody like that. I bet he was a fucking savage when he was in college and was trying to pick up chicks because he was able to take it from being we're just friends
Yeah.
to we're doing business very,
I
very
agree.
quickly. But so yeah, so anyway, back to the main point. If you're somebody that is on like the more data back end office part of the business, and there's a lot of you guys in here, it's that sales piece you're gonna need to get filled very, very quickly, or that efficiency on the sales pipeline. I mean, that was what Dan and I realized early on in our business when we brought on our AC manager, that we had no money to pay, but that was like the biggest turning point that we had,
And you
and then
don't have to like, it doesn't have to be a permanent thing either when you hire that person, as far as you saying, "I can't do sales,"
correct.
is you can't do it in the moment. You'll be a much better salesperson once you learn how to figure out that you're managing the salesperson.
Yeah.
And then you'll feel more comfortable when you're leaning into that role when you need to. And I think that's what Mike and I both found out, is we didn't like, we got out of like, what would that be, like survival mindset.
Yeah.
Like, if I don't get this fucking deal closed, we're not, we're not putting food on the table. Now your salesperson's doing that. Now you're like, if I don't get them to do this, that now I'm not feeding it. But it moves that survival instinct further away from the deal. So then when you have to fill in and do some of that sales work, it just feels a lot lighter. And so then you might find, hey, now that I've had the time to figure this out and learn it, that maybe in the future you want to take that back over. So don't think about anything as forever.
Yeah. Well, also too on that, it's incredible how much you can learn when you are actively managing and overseeing someone that is like doing something that you're not necessarily that good at, right? So like I know for sure that I got better at sales from managing a small sales team for years, and reviewing their calls on a regular basis, listening to their cadence, like working with them to overcome objections that we were dealing with, and just like being a part of that. Even though I wasn't the one that was doing it, I was the one that was playing armchair quarterback. I learned an incredible amount about sales, and I was very surprised at how much I've been able to translate that into doing sales myself at different things. And I'm still not a killer by any means, but I'm definitely better than I was 5 years ago. And so like Brandon Cheduk, he asked earlier this morning, if you guys saw that he wanted a cadence for like a kickoff call with a sales team, what that looks like. And then he said, does it make sense for him to do that with one person? Absolutely it does. Should be doing that every single day. and you should be actively involved in working with them, helping them get better, and you as a result will get better too. Right. Not only just as at like managing a person, but also in developing the skills necessary. Just saying that goes the other way too. Like if you are somebody that is hiring out someone to like do your data or like do back parts of your business, do your bookkeeping, by overseeing that and having them walk you through what you're doing, you can have your team members teach you things that will make you better at doing it yourself, or learning how to hire someone that's even better than them in the future. Right. And as you guys, as well as entrepreneurs who are active learners, you'll be surprised at how quickly you probably find you actually surpass their skill set. Right. Just because you're going to be in a position where you're going to be able to do that. So cool. And then is there any questions or anything kind of about that concept, or like finding that, I would say, like that constraint in your business growth?
I can just speak to what you were just talking about how when you hire someone and then train them and oversee them. I just experienced that over the past kind of 3-4 weeks.
Mhm.
And that's really been everything you just said is like completely true about that, where I was able to re-engage with my CRM and like old leads and things like that. I cleared my schedule for her first week for those 4 hours that she was working. And we did calls together. We sat there, I typed up cold calling scripts like for her and just walked through that entire process. And it was like, it was learning everything for a second time, and kind of I felt like I was like mastering the process that I felt like I don't know, kind of forgotten about or taken for granted. So I could just second, everything that you just said about that process. So the hiring process, training, and overseeing is definitely critical.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a great point too, is you will be amazed at how much you learn about your own business, just trying to tee up somebody coming into your business to be successful. Like something I've told people is you never realize quite how disorganized you are until you suddenly hire somebody for a role that you've never hired someone for before. And you're like, God damn, that whole department or part of my business is in complete shambles because it's been locked up in my brain the entire time. Right. And we've dealt with this in every part of our business that we've done. Even as recently as, we just hired someone on to come in and do sales for Simply Leads. Man, what a freaking nightmare all that stuff was, because we had no optimization of like the lead funnel or the sales process or anything else for that. And so it never fails. That's part of business though, is learning that. And I'll also say that you need to probably be willing to like jump in before things are perfect, because if you're always trying to make the process perfect before you hire somebody, you're never going to get anywhere. Because you're always going to have like one more thing that you can make better, and it's really going to get optimized by somebody coming in and just trying to break the system.
So when you going back to the topic, of like trying to grow or where you're at, like I know some of you might be sitting here like I just don't know, right? Or you're like, man, I want to close more deals, but I don't know. Don't fly blind. Mike and I talk about KPIs for a reason. Get your KPIs straight. Like, what is your cost per deal? I mean, that was the first question I asked Eric. I wanted to know his cost per deal because I want to know where he's at. If he told me $8,000, I'd be like, you got a problem, dude. You're either severely under marketing every single month and not following up your leads, or you got some other problem. So get your cost per deal, understand what your cost per lead is. How many phone calls do you have to make? How many times do you have to call sellers? Calls per contract, contracts to close, all that stuff. We talk about that stuff because it's important and it's easy to diagnose. And now you have a common language you can speak. You can put that out on Slack and post your KPIs and say, hey, who else is looking like this, or can take a look at this. And we're all running the same business, so we all should have similar KPIs, to be honest. Like, they're going to be off by a little bit depending on the market and depending on people's abilities, but it'll tell you right away where you're sucking. And so, and like, if you're not following up with your leads, all that sort of stuff, like how many phone calls are you making every week? If it's not very many, there's probably a reason why you're not closing deals. And so those are all good things. So don't fly blind, measure things, even if you don't feel like you're doing any level of scale yet, you haven't even done, one deal yet, like start tracking your KPIs. So as you do more, those things will trend towards something. They'll either trend towards the average and you're doing good, and now you just need to do more of that, or they'll be trending way off and you need to look at a piece of your business and then you can adjust. That's why we're all here.
I'm really glad that you said that, Dan, because that's also the perfect representation of you as like a high C versus me with no C. Because right. I know why you think that. I agree with it, but I also know that my natural inclination would not be to do that.
Yeah.
Because being the high D personality, I just go into like, I just need to grind and do more. how much more I don't know, but I know what exertion feels like, right? And so I'll just go off of like that more emotional rather than, you're more on the C end and you like the actual numerical ones, which is if you can conquer that, right, that's definitely going to be more projected growth versus like mine
A
is
big part of it is like, and you're talking about this with acquisition.com, right? What do they ask you for every single time you talk to them?
so
Data.
much data. Yeah.
So you can't, if you guys are all here because you want to run a business,
Yeah.
like you can't run your business flying blind. You have to have information and data. You can fuck around and do all that stuff for as long as you want, but like you're in the scale community to scale your business. So think about it that way and think about yourself as a professional entrepreneur and a business owner, and that will help. It will, you'll start seeing the trends, you'll start seeing things, just like when you're training people, you'll start seeing trends that you wouldn't have seen when you were in that role, right? You'll start picking up on those things.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going out next week to Las Vegas to hang out with Alex Ramosey's team at acquisition.com again for their little like level 2 thing that they have where like I'm actually going to be working for 2 straight days, like one-on-one with one of their, they gave me basically like a rep that's going to be helping me dive into everything for our business. And it's funny going through like the little onboarding process over the last week and a bit, the level of detail that they want things on the numbers. I feel like we're relatively organized most of the time compared to what they want. We're not even close. And there's like so many like little things that they're really trying to dive into. So hopefully come back with some good lessons we can pass on for you guys. But, cool. Anything else on that before we move on?
Yeah, I could throw a little bit in that too. I kind of side with both Mike, you and Dan. Like, I've just been sending it all this first year
Yeah.
and not paying attention to that, just going for the hustle, doing things I knew that worked because I was getting contracts, getting deals, we were moving. I wasn't extremely worried about it, but I looked at my business as a whole. Like after that year of anniversary, I was like, all right, what do I need to do to take this to the next level? And part of that was like initiating those KPIs, looking at what was actually going on and what that did for me to help give me the confidence to move into that next level and like know what was restricting me from moving up to the next level was those KPIs. It gave me confidence to be like, oh, well, there it is. I just need more leads. Everything else is going smoothly. Now I just need more. So those really dialed it in and made me feel like, okay, now I'm actually running a business. This thing works.
Yeah.
Let's get into it and like take ownership of it and like really ramp it up, get back into it, dial it up. Like KPIs were so confidence building.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But on the other hand, to like Mike's point, I didn't know what those KPIs needed to look like. I didn't know what the relation was to the business. So it was hard because I was almost flying blind as far as even having a navigational tool. I didn't know what those needed to look like, know how to react to them. But so taking a look at them kind of geared me towards that and being like, oh, that's what that means, right? And once I understood that, now it's like, get out of the way, we're coming,
Right.
you know.
It's like, that's why I feel that way. It's a measurement tool for how you feel sometimes too.
Mhm.
Yeah, totally. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the one thing to keep in mind for the vast majority of everybody, this is us included, revenue solves pretty much all problems in business, right? Like if you can increase your revenue, you can probably figure out everything else.
Please make sure to subscribe to this, share it with your friends, and we appreciate you guys listening. Thanks, everybody.